Hey, I'm Jay Kumar, the BassBlaster. Woo, listen to that voice. This is your Abu Garcia REVO and Humminbird Minn Kota top 5 tips, techniques, and trends of the month. Number 1.
Born with the strength of a black tiger, the courage of an eagle, the power that made him more than any hero, Beastmaster.
That's right, that guy's talking about Minnesota's Easton Gill, who rolled into the Classic after 2 spectacular bombs in his first 2 Elite Series events. In fact, he was and still is at the bottom of the Elite Series points, if you can believe it. He said starstruck nerves got to him in those first 2 events, but by the time the Classic hit, he was over it. He was in 3rd after day 1 at the Classic. He was leading it by 10 pounds after day 2. And even though he kind of struggled on day 3, that last minute 8-pounder
got her.
Was the real to seal the deal.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Bassmaster Classic champion, Easton Gill.
Now the weights were good at the Classic because it was pre-spawn and big fish, but the number of keepers was really low. A lot of guys didn't weigh limits every day, and the guys who did might only have 5 or 6 bites. 10 was a lot. Easton caught his fish in the front half of pockets from about the mouth to halfway back. His key depth range was 5 to 10 feet, and the biggest deal was there had to be hard bottom and even hard-packed sand qualified. The bait he caught most of his fish on was a Nico Rig Strike King finesse worm in the red bug color. He fished it in the trees with that Ryugi heavy guard hook, and also sniping fish he'd see, or he'd first draw them out of the cover with his jerkbait and then snipe them with that Nico Rig.
Untouchable.
He also caught a few on that jerkbait and a jig. Now the Classic is always great. The champs always have a great story. This one was no different. Huge congrats to him. He's yes, he is the Beastin'. Number 2. The Bassmaster Classic at Lake Ray Roberts, Texas was a pre-spawn tournament. Now, over the last few years, pre-spawn tournaments have become mostly forward-facing sonar tournaments. That's because forward-facing sonar allows guys to efficiently fish for roaming, cruising, and staging fish before they hit the bank. So was the Classic a forward-facing sonar tournament? Time of year-wise, the answer should have been absolutely yes. But a couple things made it different than you might think when you hear those words forward-facing sonar. First, calling a tournament a forward-facing sonar tournament anymore isn't really accurate, because that sonar is pretty much on all the time now, just like all other sonars. Second, we interviewed every single guy at the Classic and asked what bait they were fishing, what were their main baits. Only a couple guys, I think 2 actually, fished a jig head minnow part of the time, which is pretty much your Classic when you think of forward-facing sonar bait. Third, Ray Roberts has tons of trash fish which all showed up on forward-facing sonar.
Trash, so much trash.
Some guys found it real tough to wade through all those fish on the screen. But other guys were so good at it, like our winner Easton Gill, they thought they had an advantage because they could do that.
I got her.
And lastly, the fish were big, but man, there weren't many of them. Most guys would boat 5 or fewer fish every day, and big fish baits were needed. Plus, the fish were mostly shallower and in a lot of standing timber and some rock, so light spinning rods with little minnows weren't gonna do it. In other words, of course forward-facing sonar played, because it will in every tournament. But this Classic was about 3 things: finding 5 fish a day, getting them all to bite, and having a limit with at least 1 5+ pounder per day. The main baits of the Classic were jerkbaits, chatterbaits, jigs, and flipped plastics. Runners-up were Nico rigs, big soft swim baits, shaky heads, and crankbaits. Now you could say Nico rigs and shaky heads are finesse, and you'd be right sometimes, but not in this tournament. This was all about a few big bites from big fish in serious cover, so the tackle was not finesse. So to sum it up, power techniques dominated, forward-facing sonar played a part like all the other sonars, and Easton Fothergill did it all of the above and more, better than the other 50-plus hammers fishing this classic.
Obviously, this planet is condensing more rapidly than expected.
Hey, easy there, Mr. Spock. We're just talking bass fishing. Number 3. What was Trey McKinney singing at the Bassmaster Classic? That's right, because he was alone again. Man, you can talk all you want about Trey being good with forward-facing sonar, and of course he is. But this young man simply finds fish no one else does. I believe that's his biggest talent. Let's take a quick look back at when Trey won at Lake Fork last year, only his second Bassmaster Elite Series event ever. That lake is small, it fishes small, and was fishing even smaller because the water level was low. Everyone knew it would be a pocket deal, and here's the amazing thing. Trey fished 2 pockets by himself. By himself! Think about that for a sec. There's hardly any secrets in fishing anymore. I mean, every spot is a community hole now. And then you have forward-facing sonar, which allows you to see everything anyway. And then this is the Elite Series, some of the best ever at finding fish. And Trey found fish no one else did in 2 places on a lake that was fishing small? That's incredible, man. After he finished second at the Classic this week, and by the way, he was fishing a Nico rig, a jerkbait, and a jig, the same baits Easton Fothergill fished, I asked Trey if anyone was fishing around him. He said one guy was near him for part of one day, but that's it. Now bear in mind that because of the wind and the other factors at Ray Roberts, that lake was fishing smaller than it probably would have otherwise. So once again, that's kind of crazy. Trey also said that when he finished 8th at the Okeechobee Elite this year, he also pretty much fished by himself. Now, even though Okeechobee is huge, it was fishing way smaller this year because of water quality and vegetation issues. Now, back when he won on Fork, I asked him how he finds these places. Here's what he said. I look for stuff that really does not look that good, stuff that people drive on by. Little hidden points, little staging places, maybe a little bitty point. So I gotta ask you, when's the last time you ran around a lake looking for stuff that does not look good?
That's crazy talk.
Yes, it is, but it's working for Trey. Number 4.
We're in a kill zone now, do you understand?
Close, not a kill zone. I'm talking about the Gill zone. As in Easton Fothergill and his zone bro and fellow young hammer Drew Gill. 2 gills! I'll come back to that in a sec, but for now, let's talk about a word they both use all the time. Zone. They don't say spot, they don't say area, they say zone. So what does that mean? Is it a time zone, a war zone, a safety zone?
What is this, the Twilight Zone?
Well, maybe. Anyhow, I wasn't sure, so I asked them. Here's what they said. Easton first. It just seems like every lake you go to, there's a zone of the lake where it goes down. There's always a section of the lake that pops off when you go there, and it's all about finding that correct zone. A lot of times when I show up to a lake, I'm testing different areas of the lake, trying to find that specific zone that's going off in the tournament. Interesting. Okay, now Drew. He said it's a section of the lake where the contours, water clarity, forage population, and available cover sets up similarly enough to repeat a bite by patterning what they're looking for. Because we know a pattern doesn't work across an entire lake. It's a good way to describe the usable portion of the lake for the bite you're chasing.
Welcome to the zone zone.
Now to me, they're pretty much saying the same thing there. Drew says the usable portion of the lake, and Easton says the zone that's going off. So to me, they're saying that you can pattern fish in a lake, obviously, but if you're in the wrong section or zone of the lake, then you're gonna not get as many bites or as many big bites, and you won't win. And let me tell you, both these guys are winners. All right, now let's get back to that 2 gills thing. Now obviously fish have gills, so one bassin conspiracy theory might be that the fish have finally infiltrated us landlubbers and they're stealing our money.
Stranger things have happened.
Okay, you think that's nuts? Well, here's the icing on the cake. How do fish communicate? That's right, just like Aquaman, with sonar. gills, sonar. You getting the picture yet? Alright, maybe not. Keep an eye on it, man. Number 5. The Z-Man JackHammer is the #1 tournament bait by name. Let me explain that. Using stats from the top 10 finishers on the Bassmaster Elite Series and the Opens and the MLF Bass Pro Tour and the Invitationals, we found that the bladed jig is number 6 on the all-time top 10 list of tournament bass baits, which basically means it's just the JackHammer because that's the one used and named 99% of the time. In other words, top finishers in top tournaments use that specific bladed jig, whereas for other bait types, they'll use other or various brands. So given that, to me, the biggest launch of a new bait at this year's Bassmaster Classic was the new JackHammer Baby Jack, a little smaller JackHammer born from the same team that came up with the OG JackHammer. That's pro anglers Brett Hite and Marizo Shimizu, along with Z-Man and Japanese bait company Evergreen. I can't run down all the stuff about the Baby Jack here, but the main deals are it comes in a half, 3/8, and now a quarter, which B Hite says is great for waking over grass. It hits as hard, almost as hard anyway, as a regular JackHammer, just at a different frequency. The head is smaller with some weight down the shank to keep it from blowing out when you're really burning it. And it has a custom decoy hook. That's probably all the details you need to be like,
shut up and take my money.
Word! That's all I got for you this time. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Abu Garcia, REVO, and Humminbird Minn Kota. See you next month with the top tips, techniques, and trends. God bless you.